Today we're going to talk about preparing for college music auditions, and this is for any level of college study, whether you're preparing for undergraduate, graduate, or doctoral work or anything like that. It should also be applicable to many auditions besides just college, but I always have a handful of students who are getting ready for college auditions, and I want to be able to send them to this video for a lot of ideas. Let's talk about if your time frame up to the audition is more than 2 years, because it's never too early to start learning about music schools. You want to learn what are the best schools, especially for your own instrument. And of course, that also means who are the best teachers, who are getting the best results with their students. This is really important for music majors because that teacher is going to be the faculty member that you work with the most throughout your entire degree. Be sure that you also think about your own college goals. For myself, I knew as an undergraduate that I didn't want to be too focused on music. I actually ended up doing a flute and math double degree at Oberlin College and Conservatory. I also looked at Johns Hopkins and Peabody because they would do something similar, and I looked at Yale. Also, with this time frame of 2+ years, it's a good time to start networking. Even if you're 13 years old, you want to start knowing who the other flute players are around you, and especially who are the professional teachers and performers that you should get to know. If you have the chance to go to music camps and study with specific teachers, that will help you a lot to know who you want to work with. If you can do master classes with teachers who are at any colleges that you're interested in, you should also do that. Take lessons with as many different teachers as you can, especially if you think you might be interested in studying with them in college. I know when I was a student, I thought of that kind of as brown nosing, but now that I'm on the other side, now that I'm a professor, I believe students are more interested and committed when I've met them before they come to audition for me, especially if they've worked with me. Try to visit the campuses of any schools that you think you're serious about. That's difficult. This is all an investment of time and money, and you may not be able to do it, but it's an investment that will help you to decide your future goals. If you manage to visit a campus, but you don't manage to arrange to have a lesson with the teacher while you're there, just try to meet them. Even if you just say hello, it's a way to connect with that teacher and get more of a sense of their personality and how you may work with them. Let's narrow the time frame a bit. Let's say that your auditions are happening in 1 to 2 years. This is when it's time to get very serious about narrowing down where you're actually going to apply, because the application process is long. So you don't want to leave it to the last minute. I like to tell my students to think of schools in 3 categories. The first category is you definitely should get into this school. Maybe it's the local college. Maybe it's the college where your high school private teacher has been, and you know that they're going to accept you. But you want to have a category where you feel pretty guaranteed that you will get in. Because if you only shoot for the stars, there's a chance you won't get into any place. The second category you should aim for is a borderline category. Schools that are really top schools where you may or may not get in. There's no guarantee that you'll get in, but teachers and mentors and people around you say, yes, I believe your playing is at a level where you could definitely get into that school if they have an opening for you. Because remember that, especially as a flute player, there are very limited openings at schools. The third category of school to look at is your shoot for the stars category. For instance, Juilliard, where I went for my doctoral degree, nobody is guaranteed a spot at Juilliard. They often have roughly 800 pre-recorded auditions that are sent in by flutists, the pre-screening round, and out of those 800, they pick about 50 to 70 to come to New York and do the live audition. From those, they may admit 3 to 6 total flutists between undergraduate, master's, doctoral, artist diploma, professional studies. But if you've always wanted to go there, you should shoot for your dreams. Go for it. Do the best audition that you can. Send it in. See what happens. Between these 3 categories that we've discussed, I tell my students, pick at least 2 in each category, but no more than 3. You don't want to put too many eggs in too few baskets. You want to have at least 2 schools in each category, but if you have 3 schools in each category, you have to start thinking about your time and energy resources. Every school where you apply is going to take significant time and energy. If you go all in, as you should, for every single application, each one is going to be very draining and take a lot of time. Now let's talk about the time frame narrowing to the year of your audition. By now, in the final year, you should have picked your 6 to 9 schools where you're going to apply. The next step, once you feel very sure on those schools, is to scour their websites, know inside out what you need to do to audition. Make a list of all of the deadlines. You don't want to miss any of them, or any effort that you've invested will be fruitless. And then also know all the required repertoire. Make a list of what's required at each school, because what you're going to do with these lists is combine them. You're going to give yourself the least possible amount of music to work on, because some schools might say something like, prepare a piece from the classical era. And then another school will say, prepare the Mozart G major concerto first and second movements. So guess what you're going to use for any school that asks for a piece from the classical era? You're going to use Mozart. Similarly, if you have to prepare orchestral excerpts, one school may say, bring these 3 specific orchestral excerpts. And then another school may say, bring 5 excerpts of your choice. Your choice is made for you on 3 of those 5 excerpts. You are going to double up. This is going to save your sanity, because there is a lot that goes into practicing for each of these schools. And the more that you can multitask, make everything simpler on yourself, it will save you a lot of stress as these audition dates get closer. Also, don't pick any new music to play unless you have to. If there's some school that has a specific requirement of a piece that you don't know yet, get right down to the job of learning that piece. But if everything is your choice, pick music you already know well and then make it as perfect as you possibly can. This is not a time to try out new music, it's a time to bring all of your strengths to the table. Now let's talk about a time frame where your auditions are about 2 months away. This is when you want to have a very well-defined practice routine. How are you going to approach this list of pieces that you have to work on? First of all, again, be sure you have a master list. Everything in a place that you can easily see so that you won't forget about anything that you have to practice. When you're about 2 months out, I would say be sure that you see all of your music at least every other day. No piece better feel very new at this point. Any pieces that you had that were new should stop feeling new by the time you've only got 2 months to go. When you only have 1 month left before you start your round of auditions, I would say be sure that you are playing through all of your audition music every day. That means that some pieces you may only have time to run, and you have to carefully think through which ones you want to spend more time with each day. Also, when you're this close to the audition especially, be sure that you're playing auditions for people constantly. You're playing for your parents, you're playing for your friends, you're playing for the flute section in the band, you're playing for the milkman if there is one, maybe the Amazon delivery man, you're playing for your cat, your dog, certainly your recording device. By the time the audition comes around, you want to feel like you've done it many times. You certainly don't want to feel like the first time you've done this audition is at the audition. Also, especially if you're a flutist or other wind instrumentalist, be sure that you are getting exercise regularly. Always, but especially in this last month or 2 leading up to your audition, you need to have your heart rate go up, and you need to feel like you can control your air, your breath, your support when your heart rate is elevated, because that is going to happen in your audition. And just recognize that so that when it happens, it's not going to cause you stress. Let's talk about the last week or so before your auditions start rolling around. The main thing about this time is that you need to physically take care of yourself. Eat right, get plenty of rest and sleep. Practice, but don't practice obsessively. Rely on the preparation work that you've already done. Just keep things going. It's a lot like preparing for a marathon. Most of the work that you do running and preparing for a marathon is well in advance of the race. When you get to the last week, you kind of taper off so that you conserve your strength for the big day. Think along those lines. You can practice every day, you can practice hard, but you don't want to practice obsessively. You need to trust the preparation work that you've already done. The last day or two before any of your auditions, think a lot about what you're eating. There's some amount of experimentation that everyone has to go through and see how your body reacts, but I'll give you some good general guidelines. One is it's good to get protein, especially the night before the big audition day, so that you've got strength. I like to do simple carbohydrates the day of, perhaps just some spaghetti noodles, maybe with a little bit of butter, maybe some good cheese on there, but something very simple. I know a very successful, famous pianist who on the day of any concert will always have a bunch of bananas with her. These are great to calm your stomach. They're a great source of vitamin B. And if you're not sure why vitamin B is of help, it's good for a number of reasons, but one thing is it helps you keep from shaking. And also, if you don't want to eat a whole bunch of bananas, you can go for vitamin B supplements. You can find supplement pills very easily, and they can really help keep you from shaking. Also, in these last few days before your audition, be sure that you're drinking plenty of water. You don't want to get dehydrated, again, especially if you're a flutist and you're prone to getting a dry mouth. We tend to think of what we're doing right before the audition, like, oh, I have to take a drink of water, I'm about to go in. But if you haven't been drinking well for the past day or two, you'll still get dehydrated, especially if you've been traveling. That dehydrates us. Also, don't be afraid to take a bottle of water into your audition with you. It's easy to pause between pieces or between movements and take a sip of water. Nobody is going to think that's unprofessional. If anything, those on the audition panel will be impressed that you thought ahead. It is so much easier if you can just reach down, grab your bottle, and get some water. Cheers. A few other things to think about when you go do the audition. One is, be sure that you are professional. Be sure that you're on time. Aim to be quite early in case anything happens. Be polite. Be respectful of the audition committee. Do everything that you can to make the audition panel or person, whoever's listening, feel that they would want to work with you. You will feel more comfortable and at ease if you have some good history with the flute professor there. So just a reminder to build that history starting as early as you can, because it will make your audition day less stressful and it will help you a lot with your enrollment decisions once you've been admitted to some schools. Also, in your audition, focus on what you can control. Try not to focus on the things that you cannot control. For instance, every school has a different number of flutists they're able to admit, and this will vary year by year. There may be years where 0 master's students are admitted, or there may be years where 3 are admitted, and you probably won't know which it is until after your audition. Don't think about that. Don't distract yourself with things like that that will make you nervous while you're in doing your audition. Just stay in the present moment and do the best audition that you can. A huge victory is if you feel that you were able to make music in your audition and have fun, because that shows that you were well prepared and you did the best that you could. And if you could not have fun, if the whole thing felt a little bit torturous and stressful, It's still okay if you can walk out feeling like you represented yourself well. That means it was an audition well done.